Hello and welcome to the MSTieCast. I'm Toby Mobius.
I'm Josh McLeod.
Hi, I'm Justin Toner.
And Jackey Raye-Neyman-Jones, Debbie from Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Yes, and she is joining us for a very special announcement.
Yeah, we're doing a Kickstarter launch here on January 30th, which happens to be the 50th anniversary since Manos, the Hands of Fate premiered in 1966, and we are creating the sequel to Manos, the Hands of Fate, called Manos Returns. I'm producing it, and my dad, the master, is actually doing a part in it, and we've already filmed that, so that's really cool.
All right, and the getting your father to play the master again, that was funded by the T-shirt sales, am I correct?
Yes, it was. You know, we had known that a sequel or something had to happen for a long time. There's been a lot of Manos projects, and this whole thing just came about pretty organically, but, you know, one of the reasons this had to happen with me involved is to get my dad involved and any of the other original actors and cast or crew that might still be living involved in this project, because Manos has gained so much notoriety over the last, 50 years, but the original people never really got any acknowledgement for it, and they certainly never got paid in the first place. So that's kind of how this thing came about. My dad is now 80 years old, and he is interested in all this Manos notoriety, so it kind of came about thinking, how can I give him a chance to get back on stage, so to speak, one more time, and for us to do a project together, because we're really down to it. At his age, we need to get something done if we're going to do it. And it just came together so organically, and it's the will of Manos. It must happen.
Manos has decreed it.
And I have to say, not just for this project, but any Manos project, is over the years, and me being who I am and being so interested in it and following it the way that I have, when I say it's the will of Manos, I say it in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way, which is pretty much our script, very tongue-in-cheek. But at the same time, it's just kind of weird the way that Manos projects come together and are successful in a very organic, interesting way based on the fans and the interest. It just seems to work. If you follow what you're supposed to be doing, it's just going to work out. And that's how this has come. We have such an amazing group of people that have come together to make this happen. Every day I get more excited about it.
Yes, and Rachel Jackson, who did Manos, the Hands of Felt, really, really well received Manos Space Puppet Show, for those of you who don't know. Mm-hmm. How did she get involved?
Well, Rachel and I became friends when she did Manos Hands of Felt. At the same time she was doing Hands of Felt, the second time that she did it, I was involved in a stage production of Manos, comedy in Portland, Oregon. And so everything, again, just kind of fell together. And then Ben Solovey, who did the restoration, was doing a screening at the Seattle Film Festival a couple years ago, and it was so odd because I was invited to come to the screening and do a Q&A, and it happened to land on the very same weekend that Rachel Jackson was doing Hands of Felt, so I was able to attend both events in the same 3 days. With one trip to Seattle. And through that, and then she came down to see the stage production in Portland that I got to be part of, because I was able to be the voice of Debbie from offstage. In the stage production, Debbie was played by a puppet. And so through this, Rachel and I became friends. And when we pulled this team together to do Manos Returns, Rachel was just naturally right there. It's like, how can Rachel be involved? And please, Rachel, please be involved. Please help us. And she agreed to help us with the Kickstarter. But some of her puppets from her production, Manos Hands of Felt, will also have an appearance in our movie. So, we're just tying it all together. It's a nod to Manos. It's a nod to the fan base and all the amazing creative projects that have been inspired by this film since Mystery Science Theater 3000 brought it to public consciousness in 1993.
And what are the odds that Manos is the film that stands out amongst all of the 170 some odd films that they did? That, as far as I know, it's the only movie they ever did that warranted a sequel.
Well, we'll see if it warrants a sequel. I mean, that's our goal. But as far as popularity of Manos, it is interesting. And I just finished writing a book called Growing Up with Manos, The Hands of Fate. And the subtitle is How I Was the Child Star in the Worst Movie Ever and Lived to Tell the Story. And through the research and all this time of getting this book together, I've learned so much about this whole Manos thing. But Joel Hodgson, the creator of Best Brains and Mystery Science Theater 3000, I contacted him through the process of writing my book. And I got so much more out of it. What a gracious, wonderful man he is. He ended up being my mentor now, and he wrote the foreword to my book. And it's an amazing foreword. And his take on how Manos became what it is through Mystery Science Theater 3000 is that he feels that Manos somehow it stands on its own. They take credit for bringing it to public consciousness, but something about Manos has its own energy, and regardless of them. And that has shown itself because it just continues going. And now with the restoration and all these things outside of Mystery Science 3000, they were the catalyst, but it absolutely has a life of its own that's inexplicable. It's very hard to understand, but it's obviously there.
It's incredible. Like Josh said, I can't imagine another film from Mystery Science Theater that is so beloved. Like, even outside of MST circles, like, it's been on Elvira, it's been referenced in other media, there's a video game based on it.
Yeah, several video games. Oh. And it was on How I Met Your Mother. It was featured in
Futurama.
Oh, yeah, it was in Futurama, but what's the Sherlock? What's this?
It was the Sherlock
Elementary.
series, Elementary.
Yeah,
they referenced Manos in one episode. That one of the guys, the Watson character figured out because the guy looked like Torgo. He was trying to pin the crime on somebody else and basically described Torgo, and she was like, I always do this description this first stuff in, and she's like, no, you described Torgo from Manos Hands of Fate. Nice try.
But then she goes on to talk about John Reynolds and Manos. I mean, when somebody told me it was on Elementary, I thought it was going to be a passing reference like it was on How I Met Your Mother, but it wasn't. The whole show was based around John Reynolds from Manos Hands of Fate. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. And now there's another guy. There's a guy right now in New Orleans that's putting together a Manos burlesque show.
Oh my.
And as soon as that's together, he's promised me a trip to New Orleans to come see it. So I'm very much looking forward to that show.
Well, they have the costumes already.
Yeah.
I know, it's easy, right? I mean, it's all there. Everything's laid out. It's all the elements are there in Manos to take it into so many different realms, and that's what fascinates me, is this horrid film has inspired so many truly, truly talented people and products.
I'm so glad that you guys are getting another crack at doing a Manos movie after so long.
Well, there's been a lot of people that have tried. There's a lot of different projects, film projects that have started and dried up, and I was actually part of one of them, the last attempt at a sequel in 2010, and this one is completely different from that. This is very tongue-in-cheek. It's like, how do you do a sequel to Manos? How do you do that? You can't, honestly, from my point of view, following this and being who I am, and believe me, I've followed Manos closely, is you can't recreate it. It's not like you can go out and get the same camera and try to make Manos again. You can't. Manos wasn't done intentionally. It wasn't intentionally bad. They did it earnestly and the best they could do with what they had at the time. And we're doing the same thing, but we have a lot more talent behind us. We have the right attitude, I believe. Is we're not trying to make a bad movie, but we are making a low budget movie. This is an indie movie. It's low budget. We're very resourceful people, but we also have a lot of connections, and we have a great fan base. And our expectation with the Kickstarter is that we will reach our minimum goal easily to get a movie made. And with that and all the volunteers and all the help, we will get a movie made. But if we can go beyond our minimum and reach a higher level, then we're going to make the movie that we really dream of. And it's still going to be a low-budget indie film, but with the talent and the resourcefulness that we have behind us, it's going to be pretty good. Every day I get more excited. This is going to be it is a very fun project, and I think that the audience is going to really enjoy it.
I'm sure they will.
I think they will.
Now, I'm looking at the press release now, and Nikki Mathis is involved?
Yes. So much of this could not have happened if I hadn't written this book. Because in the process of writing my book, I did so much research. If anybody who's a Manos fan looks at the credits, the musicians in the soundtrack were never credited. They're nowhere in the credits. And all these years, nobody knew who did the music besides the two guys who scored, who wrote the music and composed it. But who are the musicians? I discovered Nikki Mathis, who was the vocalist for Forgetting You on the soundtrack, and Magic Circle, the only female vocalist. And it turns out this woman is so amazing, and she's been singing all these years. She was actually a pretty big deal in El Paso already in 1966 when she agreed to do the soundtrack, when she agreed to sing these songs for free on this soundtrack to the movie. She had played with Dave Brubeck on stage at the El Paso del Norte Festival in 1959. She was playing with big deal people long before Manos, and then Manos happened, and then she went on to this amazing career. She's very, very talented, and she and I become friends. I love her. She's adorable. She's a wonderful, gracious, gorgeous, wisdom woman, and she's agreed to re-recording Forgetting You for us, for our soundtrack.
That's amazing.
It's incredible. So I'm setting her up in a recording studio, and so far for our Kickstarter, we've already filmed my dad's scenes based on that t-shirt fundraiser a couple months ago. The fans showed us they wanted this to happen. They made that happen, and we got to pay my dad for the first time ever for doing a part. And Nikki Mathis has agreed to re-record Forgetting You, so that's really the very first next step for us. Once the Kickstarter is completed, is to get her in the studio. We already have the music being produced by a musician, by an artist that we'll be announcing soon, and then we'll get her in the studio.
Very, very cool. What kind of things can project backers expect at different levels for the Kickstarter?
Oh, okay. So, well, the beginning for just $5 is you get a download of the re-recording of Nikki Mathis's Forgetting You. So that's our first one. We have our DVD of the movie, of the finished film. We have your name in the credits. We're looking at, there's this guy who's creating a coloring book. There is already a Manos coloring book out, but there's someone else who's creating a new one. And we'll have both the video or the digital download, and then we'll have the physical copy of that. And that's a special edition coloring book. Have the signed script. We also have, because of the book that I'm writing, I have signed copies of my book. And then we also have some copies of the manuscript. So pre-publication of my book, people can get signed manuscript signed by both me and my dad, Tom Neiman. And then when we get to the higher levels, we're getting into, we're going to do a prop replica of Torgo's staff because, I was there when my dad created all the props, the costumes, and I know how he did these things, and I'm an artist myself, so I'm doing a replica of the staff of Torgo. So we'll have not too many of those. And then at the higher rewards, we're doing, you have an opportunity to be an extra in our film, and you have an opportunity for a walk-on part. We have a number of things, all the way from $5 to $2,000. So we have lots of range there within our Kickstarter.
Hey, if the Mystery Science Theater Kickstarter is any indication, the 2001 will be gone. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was an amazing thing to watch. I mean, they're one of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns in history. And then if you look back on every single Manos Kickstarter event, every single one has exceeded their expectations. The restoration alone, I think he was going for 10 or 12,000, and he got like 45,000. He got Ben went like 4 times. Rachel went over her limit too, and over her basic limit of what she wanted. So I feel very confident. I'm looking over. We've been working very hard on this Kickstarter campaign, and I think we have some really fantastic rewards, and of course, the result is going to be a movie that I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think people are going to enjoy it very much. It gives a chance for redemption for my dad and myself and Diane Marie, who played my mother. We're looking at getting her in here too, and that's based on some of our stretch goals, because all these things cost money. Brian Jennings, who played the sheriff in Manos, he's no longer living, but his son, who looks so much like him, will be our sheriff, being his dad, with the most famous line that I love is, "Whatever you're not doing, don't do it somewhere else."
That'd be good on a t-shirt.
Actually, yeah.
That's a good idea, you know? Yeah. I like that.
Like like the sheriff in the same way that the master looks on the other shirts, but with that quote.
You know what? Yeah, so you're not gonna sue me or anything.
You know what? As long as I get a free t-shirt out of it, I'm fine.
Okay, I'm writing a note. You get it. You got it.
I'm curious how you're going to do the Torgo role, if at all, because, you know, I see a lot of these representations of Torgo in recent events, and most of the people don't tend to do it with that same earnestness that John Reynolds did. Most of them portray Torgo like he's a helium addict.
Yeah, that's true.
They kind of give him like an insanity to the character that's not there. I'm thinking of
Right.
I'm thinking of like at the Riff Tracks event, the gentleman who did that. I know there were others. But a lot of them tend to portray it with a more insanity than the character actually was.
The one you're talking about, the person you're talking about is the one who was creating the first Manos sequel that didn't work out. So I think that's kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, our Torgo is, I mean, so our film isn't, I need to be very clear, this isn't a remake. We're not redoing Manos in any way. This is a continuation of the story. So this particular story is very tongue-in-cheek. We're calling it a comedy horror, or a horror comedy. It's definitely more comedy than anything. But this is a group of young filmmakers who've decided that they want to do a sequel to Manos, and they've heard that Manos was based on a true story. And so they're out to find the original Valley Lodge, and which is different than the one in the movie, as they always are. So that's how we explain not being able to go back to the original place and do the original thing. This is a totally different movie. But Torgo himself is not the original Torgo. He's obviously, you know, because the caretaker changes over time. But this guy, he's just the caretaker. He's doing his thing, and he just agrees to be called Torgo because they're paying him to do so. So, you know, but yeah, we are looking at several people for casting that role, and we're being very careful to get somebody that's not gonna play it crazy. We just want a guy that is like, well, okay, if that's what you want me to be, you know.
How do I audition for this?
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, we're looking. Do not have our Torgo yet.
Send in your 8x10 glossy.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. And you have to travel to Oregon.
How do you anticipate the differences between Oregon, the location of Oregon, and the location of the West Texas town of El Paso? Obviously, you're not going to be able to do things like film in the desert.
Right. It's completely different, which is how our writer Steve Foley explains it in the story, is that the original Manos is based on a true story, but this group of West Texans did this low-budget film to recreate this story out in the desert because that's what they had available to them. But this young group of filmmakers, in their travels, they kind of, on purpose, accidentally stumble across the original actual Valley Lodge.
So the Valley Lodge is sort of the Black Lodge, in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of like an old bed and breakfast, you know?
Okay.
Let me get you your eggs.
Yes. And then, you know, I of course am almost 50 years later, so older, so I am now kind of running the place, more or less, at this point. And I'm not that nice a person either. Not like in real life. If you can imagine 50 years after being kidnapped by this harem, and being groomed, I'm not the most pleasant human.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. That goes without saying.
It warps you, you know? I'm just saying.
Sounds very, very funny.
I'm looking forward to it because honestly, I'm such a nice person in real life, but I have this, ask my boyfriend, I have this little evil side to me, so I'm really, really looking forward to pulling that out and exploring that in this role.
I think that'd be really fun to watch.
I think so.
Is there anything else we want to say real quick, or do we want to wrap up?
I guess this is an appropriate question, and on the lore of Manos, do you believe it will survive us and survive into the future generations? Because, I mean, not to sound too morbid, but we're not all going to be on this earth forever. You know, generations will pass into generations.
Right.
Do you think that Manos will predicate that? I'm not going to say it's on par with something like Casablanca, but do you think that we'll still be that there will be people still talking about it circa 2060?
You know, honestly, I think that is very possible, and only because just different things I've heard people say about Manos is, like, there's so many movies out there, but there's something about Manos that just inspires people in so many ways that, I don't know, I think even my dad said, or somebody said, I think it was my dad, like, what would it be like if this was the last thing left on Earth? I mean, this is something that we judge all humanity by, you know?
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
But I think that, honestly, I've been watching this for a long time, and I think that, Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of did its thing, and it's so much younger than Manos, but it did its thing, and then it took off, and it's held this place in history. But Manos has so many of the same kind of elements. It doesn't have the music necessarily, the singing along, but it has the costumes, it has the lines, and I've been seeing it growing, and I see it going kind of in that direction. I think it's just going to continue building and growing for a long time.
I mean, plus, like, if Mystery Science Theater, you know, if it stays around when now that it's revived, then I'm sure it's going to keep interest in Manos high as well, because people are always going to be coming back to Manos for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. The association is always there. And like you said, you know, the MST Kickstarter, if that's any indication of the fan base, that's really remarkable. I mean, somebody said to me, they said, look at that Kickstarter. Every one of those people that back the Kickstarter is a buyer of your book. I'm like, that's potentially true. And at the same time, all those people are potentially interested in our film. And I think all these things work together. They all work together.
There's a symbiosis.
Exactly. Yeah. I would say that this film and my book is so much more than just this bad movie. There's so many people behind it, like there is in any story. But I got started in this whole Manos thing, not just by being in it, but by responding to the things online and clearing up the mythology and understanding that the truth is more interesting than the myths and the stories that are made up. And that's come to be true when I wrote my blog and when I've been talking and interacting with people. They're very interested in this, and there's something about Manos that inspires people, and it's just so much bigger than being just a bad movie. And on a personal level, there's been healing within my family between my dad and I. We were estranged for many years, and Manos was somehow the catalyst that brought us back together and gave us a relationship again, and in turn created a relationship for my whole family, you know, my children and my grandson. And so I think the story about Manos is just so much deeper than just being a movie.
I can imagine. I mean, it's kind of like you said, it's the will of Manos in a way.
There's a lot of power in it, and it's just the weirdest way. I keep saying, and I say it laughingly, but there's a weird part about it I just don't get, but I can totally get how religions are formed. Because Manos does seem to have this, I don't know, it's the will of Manos, and I find that when I just kind of trip along and go along, then things work out and I'm having a great time. So that's my goal, and everybody that's involved in Manos Returns is we're doing this for the love of Manos and because our passion is our creativity, and this is just what a wonderful direction to focus some of our creativity. It's amazing the way we're coming together.
Very, very well said. Now, to me, it's like I think the thing behind Manos is it's really, you know, in how it was created, how Warren, you know, thought, well, making a movie isn't that hard, I can do it. And now people watch Manos and go, oh, making a movie isn't that hard, I can do that.
Yeah. And the thing is, Hal Warren was saying that in 1966, when it was a hell of a lot harder than it is now. Anybody with a phone or all digital cameras have video capability. You know, every phone, people have everybody walking around has at least 2 phones on them, or 2 cameras or video opportunities any given time, and in 1966 that was definitely not the case. And so I think I don't know if you realize this, we may have said it in the last interview, but Manos is taught in film schools as everything not to do in filmmaking, and that's a lot of the Manos fan base is intelligent people, like film students, creative people who are inspired by it and then just take it off. I mean, the truth is the basic story of Manos, it's a good story. It was just not very well executed.
To paraphrase someone else, the story of Manos is a good one. It's the story of a family losing its soul.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and there are films which have done that plot, but better, but there is a core of a good idea in Manos.
Yeah. And then when you look at, the tragedy of how everything came about and how horrid it turned out, and then the addition of the layers of it, because I'm an artist, so I'm very much into symbolism and layers of meaning. So then you look at, this 6-7-year-old child who ends up being a wife of the master in the end, but in truth is the daughter of the actor. It's like a Greek tragedy. It's just so bizarre,
Mm-hmm.
Who does that?
Yeah, it's...
And then has that poor child put her face on that couch. Who does that?
You're never going to let that couch thing go, are you?
I can't. No, I'm not a germaphobe. Thank God. I don't know how, but I'm not.
So now I really want to go watch Riff Tracks Live Manos again. for all the drunk Debbie jokes.
Oh God, I laughed so hard when I went to see that. I was belly laughing. My stomach hurt for 2 days. Druggy drunk jokes. Yeah. I'm going out for a smoke.
Do we have anything else we want to say, or do we want to wrap it up?
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. Really enjoyed talking to you again. It's been a while.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. It really is.
And we wish you luck with the Kickstarter and everything. And, it's like hopefully, it will go very well for you guys.
Thank you. Well, let's talk again after the book is out. And,
I was going to say,
absolutely.
When the book hits, we'll all read it and ask more questions.
That would be great. I have to say, I'm, we talk about Manos projects and how successful they are on Kickstarter, but when the pre-release of the restoration was on the top 30 bestseller list for Amazon, and I don't know, I dare to hope that my book might reach those same pinnacles.
And we're recording this a week in advance, but this episode will be out on January 30th, so if you're listening and you want to donate to the Kickstarter, there is a link below. Go and do that right now. I mean, if you can. If you can't, then I guess wait a couple days. But, I mean, do it.
Do it.
Please.
Do it.
Do it.
Yes. Yes.
Do it.
This must happen.
Manos commands it.
It is
the
will of Manos.
Manos is permanent.
The hands of fate reaches into the wallet of fate and pulls out the money of fate.
There you go.
And it has to go search into the couch cushions of fate for some change.
Oh, man, I wouldn't want to put my hands in that couch.
No.
Not worth it.
Manos, the couch of fate.
You never know. Dirty diapers, needles. I wouldn't do it.
I mean, Torgo sat there.
Yeah.
No, I never saw him sit there. Debbie sat there, though.
Well, I mean, when he wasn't doing anything, Torgo was just hanging out.
It's just...
Wasn't that place, didn't it become like a drug den? I mean, if it's not on record, it seems like it would have been. With all the graffiti.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they ended up building, an extension campus to UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso, just very, very close. And so the lodge is basically not, a couple hundred yards off parking lot now. And so I guess a lot of young people partied there, and a lot of vandals. So it's gone. I mean, it's gone. There's nothing left. The columns are there, the wives and the master's bed, that's still there.
Might be a unique pilgrimage opportunity for some B-movie fan.
Oh, lots of people have been out there and taken pictures, and I hope to get out to, my sister and I are hoping to go to El Paso next October, because we both went to El Paso High School, and they're doing their El Paso High School is an old school, and they're doing 100-year anniversary event. And so anyway, I'm thinking that'd be cool.
Well, that'd be a good special for the DVD of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Nikki Mathis is now living in El Paso, so I have a few reasons to go there. I am just so dying to meet her face to face. We had the most wonderful chats, and she's just a woman of my similar spirit,
Very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I guess that's about it for this episode of the MSTieCast. Again, if you want to donate to the Kickstarter, there is a link below. And how long is the Kickstarter running for?
30 days. We're ending it on, I believe it's March 1st.
March 1st. Okay.
I already said that. It begins on the 30th, which is the 50th anniversary from, no, it isn't. I'm sorry. Got this all wrong. No, January 30th is the day that Mystery Science Theater showed Manos in 1993.
Yep.
So we're trying to hit, particular dates along the way. Mm-hmm. We want to start filming by springtime, early summer, which it would be 50 years from when Manos was filmed, and of the summer of 1966, and we'd like to release it on the 50th anniversary, which is November 16th. So that's our goal. It's tight, but we can do it.
I believe in y'all.
Thank you. That's so Texan of you, y'all.
I'm from Georgia, so I say y'all.
Oh, okay. Nice.
It's part of my heritage.
Heritage. Got it.
Thank you very much for listening. I'm Toby Mobius.
I'm Peppy.
I'm Justin.
I'm Jackey Raye Neyman-Jones.
And this has been the MSTieCast, and every frame of this film looks like someone's last known photograph.
Forgetting you is the thing that I cannot do. Yet I know it is very true. I'm forgetting you. I'm forgetting you.
It's the will of Manos. It must happen.